Welcome back to the Love Alive podcast. I'm Ty.
And I'm Kate.
We hope you guys are doing great. We are fresh from the gym, getting this in early today because we have a lot going on. And we are so excited because we have been working really hard on our new business project, whatever you want to call it, called Deeply Intimate. And this is something that we have been excited about for a while, but we've just started to work really hard on it. We just launched our social media page. We're working on the website, and we're working on our coaching program that's going to be just amazing. So if you haven't followed us over there, check out Deeply Intimate on Instagram, TikTok, now Facebook, and coming soon will be a website. So we're really excited. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to be announcing a lot more about that soon.
Yep.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about something that's sometimes a little controversial, but we are steadfast in our belief that you should put your marriage first, even before your kids.
And again, this is our opinion. We are not professionals, but this is our opinion because we've seen both sides in our own relationship.
And in the marriages that were modeled.
And a lot of marriages and people we know, we've seen the pitfalls of prioritizing your kids over your marriage.
Yeah. So let's be honest. Kids don't listen to you. Hardly. Sometimes. But they watch you. And we believe that your actions as parents speak louder than words. For a while, we have taken the time to try to work on our marriage. And we had a lot of years that were really hard, that our marriage wasn't great, but we have modeled to our kids that a marriage is important, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, to the point where our kids are constantly telling us to get a room.
They're grossed out by us.
Yeah, they're a little grossed out, sometimes embarrassed by us.
So we'll get more into the reasons of why that is important, but I want to talk first about the reason why this maybe becomes a little controversial. I think in our culture, we have kind of been sold the lie that the best thing we could ever do for our kids is to give up ourself and pour everything into them. Basically lose ourself for their sake. I strongly, strongly disagree because I did that for like 13 straight years and I died inside. And it wasn't good for our marriage. It wasn't good for a lot of things. Like, yeah, our kids got to do some activities, but the most important things were not being modeled for them. I really think the best thing that you can give your kids is a healthy self. So developing like who you are as an individual, living out your dreams and purposes so that they have a model to be brave enough to go do that themselves, and a model great relationship, because who they choose to marry is going to be the most important decision of their life, right? So I think we're sold this lie that we're supposed to give ourselves up for our kids and even give our marriage up for our kids, right? And obviously, like if you have an infant, that's different than having a little bit older kids, right? Depending on what phase of life you are in and what phase of children, obviously some kids are going to need more attention than others. And there will be, like if you have infants, it's like a brand new baby, yes, your marriage is going to have to take a backseat for a minute. It doesn't mean you can't put any effort into it, but it does change, right? Like the amount of effort or time investment that you're putting into your marriage will be different depending on, again, what stage of parenting you're in. But in the end, you should always still be prioritizing your marriage. It just may not be the same amount of time while they're really little as it is when they're older.
Everybody's situation is a little bit different, right? If you have kids with disabilities, or if you have, situations in your home where you need to,
that's out of your control.
Put their needs first at times or for a long time. We're not talking about neglecting your kids, obviously. We're just talking about intentionally modeling a marriage and making sure that you're taking the time for each other and prioritizing a connection between you two, prioritizing the intimacy in your marriage so that you have, you could say kind of a safe harbor when life does get hard in work or with kids or anything else. If you can fall back to your marriage as a safe place, it's absolutely amazing. And we do this all the time.
Yeah.
If I have a hard day at work, I come home, I know that Caitlin is a safe place for me to, rest my head,
And sometimes that means we go in the bedroom and we shut the door and lock it, and the kids can't come in for 20 minutes. And like you said earlier, we're not talking about neglecting your kids. There's a big difference between neglecting your kids and ignoring your kids or just not giving them the attention at the time. So we're not talking about neglecting here. Please don't neglect your children for the sake of your marriage. But it is healthy to ignore them sometimes or shut the door and lock it and tell them that they're not allowed to come in for 30 minutes or knock or bug you or whatever, or take the trip, go on the date night. Your kids will be fine. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll just get into maybe some ways in which this becomes hard to do. So we live in Utah. I don't know how it is throughout the rest of the country, but here in Utah, competitive sports is
Mm.
like the end all be all thing. Everybody has kids in competitive sports, which, in my opinion, is great. Sports for kids is fantastic. It builds character, it builds their confidence. It really is a great thing to have your kids in activities and sports. Definitely do that. But we know so many people who that's their entire life, that their marriage gets taken over. And actually, the husband and wife rarely even see each other because they are constantly at games, constantly at things for their kids, which again, do those things. But if it is taking away from your marriage or your ability to have time with each other, we personally don't think that it's worth it. A couple years ago, we had our two oldest, so only two kids. And I know families that have like 6 kids.
We are in Utah.
We are in Utah. Yes. So, but we only had 2 kids in sports, and we literally never saw each other. We called it divide and conquer. We would have to divide and conquer. He had to take one kid to one game. I had to take the other kid to the other game.
I was coaching one of our son's football teams.
It was a lot. And it was pretty much like we just saw each other in passing. And we were lucky if we had one night a week where we had dinner together as a family, let alone a freaking date night. And it really had an effect on our marriage in a negative way. We felt way more disconnected. We were exhausted all the time. And like our kids got to do the fun activities and they got to participate in these things, but the family unit and our marriage was suffering. And so the next year we didn't do as many sports. And it's been amazing. And our kids have been fine. And I don't think that they have suffered in any way or that has hurt them in any way to not do as many activities as we had them in. And it's funny, I actually looked up a statistic to see what percentage of kids who play competitive sports actually make it to professional sports. And you guys, the percentage is less than 0.5%. Less than 0.5% of kids who play competitive sports actually make it to professionals. And I swear everyone in Utah, at least, thinks that their kid is the one kid that's going to make it to professional sports. And I know many dads that they're literally coaching every basketball, football, baseball, everything. They're constantly coaching their kids, and maybe their kid will go pro, but the likelihood is very small. And they're pouring all of their time and effort into that instead of into their marriage. And I can see when I've talked to the wives how their marriage is suffering. And so, again, this is just our opinion and what we've seen and in our own experience. We don't think it's worth it to have your kids so involved in things that you're not getting to spend time with your spouse and really work on building that connection and that relationship. And that's going to bleed into the rest of your life because at some point, your kids aren't going to be living with you anymore. And we know a lot of couples who have recently become empty nesters or who have become empty nesters in the last, 5 or so years that we've talked to. And they've all had a little panic attack.
A little crisis,
A
midlife.
A little midlife crisis.
Later midlife crisis.
Yeah, like there were a couple things at play there. One was that they were like, I don't even know my spouse anymore. I'm going to have to get to know them again because they didn't use the time while their kids were in the house to keep that connection alive. Also, they don't know who they are. This happens, I think, more for moms than dads. Well, I guess dads, if all you're doing is coaching and involved in sports, it's like, what do I do now? I don't know who I am. I don't know what my purpose is because your purpose was the kids. And again, I don't think your purpose should ever be the kids, but that's just me.
But I do want to clarify something, though, because some women, and this is not Caitlin, but some women are absolutely fulfilled by motherhood.
True.
And if you are that woman, then get your fulfillment do your thing with motherhood, and more power to you. That's awesome.
But at some point, your kids will leave the
At
home.
some point, they will leave the home, and you need to find a sense of self outside your kids. Because, like she said, we've talked to a lot of couples where the woman was like, I poured everything into my kids and I loved it and it was fantastic. Now that my kids are out of the house, I have no idea what to do. I have no idea who I am. I don't have an identity anymore because
I
my identity is now gone out of the
Yeah,
house.
I literally know women who get depressed, like fall into depression, or they did fall into depression when their kids left the home. And again, because they weren't close with their spouse, they're panicking because
Yeah.
now it's awkward. It's like, I don't
And
know
then
you.
and then what you run into is, let's say the kids are out of the house, and then maybe sooner or later husband retires, and now you have two people in the home who don't know themselves, hardly know each other. And this is actually where a lot of divorces happen, because
Mhm.
now you have these two people that are like, I don't know what to do with my hands now that we're in this new dynamic, and I don't really like dealing with you all day long. I
Yeah.
am so used to being at work, or I'm so used to you being at work. And it becomes really, really difficult. And a lot of the divorces are at this stage of life, which is really sad because they've lived this whole life together, have done all these things with their kids, and, have their whole lives
And it might be like
together.
this beautiful life, right? We're not saying that's a bad thing to build a life where you're very involved with your children. But
But the
again,
marriage and the connection and the learning about each other, like I always say, learning about who each other is and who you are has to be
yeah,
priority.
you're with this person forever, guys. Hopefully, you're with your spouse forever. And so you should always be pouring into that relationship. And like you said, we just know so many people in that boat that are struggling or have struggled because they didn't work on their relationship during their kids' younger years. They just poured everything into the kids. And so we're trying to help you avoid the pitfall.
Yeah.
It's what we're doing here. Because, like, for us, we're like counting down the years till our kids are out of here. Like, we love our kids, but man, we're counting down the years when, like, him and I just get to go, like, travel and do our thing. We're still pouring into our kids, but also making it so exciting for when we do become empty nesters. We can't wait to have that time back to ourselves.
Yeah,
It's going to be amazing.
it will be. So let's bring it back to the kids now. So when your kids grow up, they're going to choose relationships based on what you model for them.
That's
Um,
actually the most important part of all this, I
yeah.
think.
So how do you communicate? How do you touch? How do you resolve conflict is a huge one. Our daughter, for example, she is turning 16 in a month, and she is so picky when it comes to boys.
She has the highest
The
standards, you
highest
guys, which
standards.
I'm not complaining about.
And I don't know if she'll admit it, but I know her high standards are because she sees how we communicate and how we deal with each other and how we are intimate together in just little moments. And so when she has boys that maybe she likes or she's talking to, and all of a sudden they become drama, or they start to
Treat her
treat her
badly.
bad, or, play the game or whatever, she's like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I am not dealing with that. And she's like a little therapist to all her friends, because she sees what her friends are going through, and she can identify the problems in her friends'
Yeah.
relationships.
She smells dysfunction from a mile away. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. And she'll, when we're having a little moment, she'll call us out too, because she can see now that she sees the majority of how we deal with each other that's good. If we're having a moment of dysfunction as well, she'll call us out on it.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, you guys are doing this right now. And we're like,
Yeah.
you're not the you're not the
Yeah.
therapist.
And we try not to argue and stuff in front of our kids very often, but sometimes we do. And I feel like that actually is important because they get to see us actually working through conflict. So we don't do it often, but sometimes we'll have like disagreements in the car. And instead of like giving each other the silent treatment and talking about it when we get home, like we'll talk through it in the car with the kids there listening, and they can see how we talk through things or how we speak to each other when we're frustrated at each other, or just they're very aware, and we're modeling not just the good parts of the marriage, we're modeling how to handle the hard parts of the marriage as
Mhm.
well. And that's why she can smell dysfunction from a mile away. That's why she can see what's going on and see what is a healthy pattern and what isn't, because we are showing her in our own relationship how that looks.
And I think we've tried to show her and tell her and model to her that she is worth having somebody treat her the right way.
Yeah.
And so she knows that she's just not going to put up with somebody that doesn't treat her well. And she tells us all the time, and she doesn't tell us that this comes from us modeling it to her, but she tells us all the time, my standards for boys are just so high. I don't know if I'm ever going to find somebody who meets my standards. And I need him to do this and be this way and treat me this way. And we're like, mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. And then we just give each other like a little high five because we know that all of those things that she's listing are things that we do in our marriage and the ways that we treat each other. And now she expects boys to treat her that way.
And again, that to me, her high standards for the type of relationship that she wants to have and expects to have now is a million times more important than her playing a sport in college or professionally or whatever.
And having said
Because,
that, she does high school cheer and she probably will do college cheer. And so we are encouraging her to do what she wants to do. But at the end of the day, for us, the win for us as parents is seeing what she is going to expect from boys and from relationships, ultimately from her marriage. And to us, it's like that's the win for us.
right. And ultimately, your kids are going to be fine. If they don't play the sports, if they don't take the big trips, if they don't have all the toys, that's fine. What's not fine is them being modeled a shitty marriage and then they are now in a shitty marriage for the rest of their life. They choose the wrong partner because they didn't have a healthy relationship model to them.
And a lot of, we see a lot of teenagers and our daughter's friends who are in relationship after relation. They just jump from one to the next to the next, and they're all toxic because they find these boys that treat them, and unfortunately, like their dad treats their mom, which is not
Yeah.
healthy, or
They're repeating the
or
pattern.
they find boys that let them treat that boy badly because the girl is kind of a toxic girl. And so it's just so important to model this so that growing up into adolescence and into adulthood, they're going to have high standards for who they hang around with, who they get into relationships with, ultimately who they married, which is arguably the biggest choice that anybody could ever
The
make.
most important
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. So again, prioritizing your marriage actually is prioritizing your kids. And I just think that in our culture, we're not sold that truth. We're, again, taught to put the marriage on the back burner, put yourself on the back burner, pour everything into your kids. And we actually think that is not the right advice. But
Yeah.
again, this is our own opinion.
And we even go as far as, I mean, we know a lot of people that take their kids on all the trips, which is cool. It's great. We like to take our kids places too, but we travel without the kids, I would say at least as much or more than with the kids.
Yeah.
And when our kids complain about it, we say, "You know what? Yeah, we'll take you there when you're married." We'll take you there when you're married, or we will watch your kids so that you can go there with your husband or
Yeah.
with your spouse. And they're always like, oh my gosh, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
But
But
if,
I want them to grow up and get married and remember, like, "Oh, my parents made it a priority to take trips together, just them. They made it a priority to do date nights every week, just them." So that they will think that that is a normal thing, because it should
Mhm.
be. It should be a normal thing in your marriage.
There were years in our marriage, and I mean years, that we didn't do a date night.
Yeah,
And
definitely not a trip.
definitely not a trip. And
Uh,
I remember way back when, I remember at some point when it was like, we should do a date night. And it was like, yeah, we should do a date night. And it was just this like novel concept of like, oh, you know what? We should take a night for ourselves. And then we did. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. And I think about that mentality now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy to
Yeah.
me that a date night was this crazy, like out there idea back then.
And one thing I wanna mention is so many times I hear like, "Oh, like, it just gets so expensive. We, date night every week, we just can't afford that." Well, I'm just going to put this out there that if you are a person that says you can't afford to do a regular date night, but your kids are in competitive sports, you're lying. Like, I think if you can't afford a date night, you can't afford to have your kids in competitive sports or whatever activities, dance that they're doing. The time and money should be invested first into your marriage. And then if there's extra, put them in activities. And guess what? If your kid is on the rec team instead of the competitive team, they're going to be fine. And
They're
they're
gonna
still
be
going to
just
get
fine.
they're still going to get the experience. Again, less than 0.5% goes pro, y'all. Just keep that in mind that less than 0.5% go pro, but 100% of marriages are going to be affected by whether or not you invested in your relationship.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know that was
Blam, mic drop.
bam, mic drop. Okay, one thing that I want to just touch on really quickly, and this is kind of like the elephant in the room, we're going to call it. A lot of time, people are pouring all their energy and time into their kids to avoid the marriage conflicts, to avoid the dysfunction that's going on in their marriage. They don't want to deal with that. So they pour into their kids and they say, well, like the kids need me. The kids need me. I'm going to go coach their team. I'm going to put them in every dance competition. We're going to be traveling, all the things. And they actually use their kids to avoid having to work on this, having to work on your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you are one of those people, that's going to bite you in the ass sooner or later. So please take our advice and start even just baby steps working towards working on your
Yeah.
relationship because kids can be a really easy excuse to avoid your marriage.
And whether that's date nights, whether that's therapy, whether that's, I mean, message us and do coaching. Like we would love to help you
Mhm.
out. And anything you can do to elevate your relationship is going to benefit you, obviously, and it's going to benefit your kids.
Yep.
And I'm going to throw this out there. If your kids hear you having sex, it's not the end of the world. I'm just going to throw
It's
that out
true.
there.
It's
It's
true.
true. We obviously you try to be quiet and you try, but if your kids hear you, it's not the end of the world. We were at dinner the other night and our daughter mentioned something about either hearing us or just like, I know what you
You
guys
guys do it
do
all the
all
time.
the time. And I'm just like, oh, but it was kind of like joking, kind of embarrassed, but kind of joking. But at the end of the day, like it wasn't a big deal. It was just, she threw it out there
And to
and
be honest, in my mind, I was like, awesome.
yeah,
She's going to have a
absolutely.
healthy relationship with sex. And the idea of having sex often with her husband is going to be a normal idea.
Well, and I want to clarify too, she hasn't been taught that you have to have sex with your husband. A lot of girls are taught, oh, you have to do it if he wants to do it. And that is not our dynamic at all. But she does know.
She actually sees that we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously,
She doesn't
she
see
doesn't,
like with her eyes that we enjoy it.
no, but she sees that we are together alone often. She's getting the drift that we're having sex often.
And
And
she's
because of that, she's like, well, they must enjoy that time together. That
yeah.
is an enjoyable thing, something that they do often, which means they like it, not because she's seeing or hearing it. And the way we talk about it, like, yep, we do, just but
And
modeling that is a normal and enjoyable part of our relationship. I think, in my opinion, she's going to have a really
yeah,
great,
that's healthy.
healthy relationship with sex or around the idea of sexuality.
And while we don't broadcast it, we also don't hide it. So if she
Yeah.
asks us, what are you guys doing in there? Whatever, we're
You
like,
don't want to know.
you don't want to know what we're doing
Kind
in
of give
there.
her,
Or if we go out on a date night, we'll remind her here and there, like, hey, don't snoop around in our closet because you might find adult things that you don't want to find. And she's like, I won't.
she's like, you guys are gross.
Yeah. But we don't
I'm like, keep thinking
broadcast
that.
it, but we also don't hide it. And we are intimate enough in the little moments of life that our kids see all the time that she just knows because she's 16, she knows that that's what we're doing when the door's closed. So, and that's so healthy. It's healthy that your kids know that you're doing those things, just like it's healthy that your kids see that you just have a good marriage and that you can resolve conflict in healthy ways.
Yeah. And again, you guys just, if you're not getting that time because you're always worried about entertaining the kids, put a movie on. Say, Don't bug me unless there's a fire or someone's bleeding. Don't bug us till the movie's over. Pop some popcorn, give them some snacks. They are fine for an hour and a half while they watch a movie and you go spend time together,
And
whether
if they
that's
say, "What
being
are you
intimate, whether
doing?"
that's just talking, like, or going. Sometimes you guys, it's like maybe it's just going to the grocery store. Your kids will be, if you have a little bit older kids, they will be fine for an hour while you go grab a drink and go to the grocery store together. Like, there are so many ways. We're not talking about just doing date night. Should you do date night? Abso-freaking-lutely. You should have a goal of doing a weekly date night. But that could be a date night at home, right? It's just intentional time every single week. So again, that could be where you put the movie on, you shut the door and you say, this is our date night. Don't bug us for 2 hours. They are fine.
And if they ask you, "What are you guys doing while we're watching this movie?" Just be like, "We just need mommy and daddy time." And if they're old enough to know what that means, who cares? Let them
But
know
even
that you
little
need mommy and
toddlers, like,
daddy.
"Oh, mommy and daddy need time alone," then you're already building in their mind that that's a normal, healthy thing,
Yeah.
that sometimes mommy and daddy need time alone together. And again, we're not talking about neglecting them or, if they actually have needs that need to be met, do those. But 99% of kids are going to be fine for a little bit while you go on a date night. You know, it's worth the money to hire the sitter, to go to dinner, whatever it is. It's so worth the time and investment. Every bit of it is worth it. And your kids will be okay if they are alone for a little bit of time, or if they don't get to do the sports, if they don't get to do the activities, or they're on the rec team versus a competitive team, your kids will be fine. But they're not going to be fine if they're modeled a shitty relationship, because more than likely they themselves are going to end up in a shitty relationship.
You're just making their life harder later, is what it
Yeah.
comes down to. And and I'll say too, even sometimes if Caitlin and I are just super busy, but we're like, we need to spend some time with the kids, right? So we'll say, let's do a movie night. We'll pop some popcorn. And while we're watching the movie, her and I will go cuddle in the corner of the couch. And we will have a little moment to ourselves with the kids
Yeah.
right there. But we will be taking that time to focus on each other, even though the kids are there. And sometimes, most of the time, eventually our little one will squeeze in
Wiggle in
between
the
us
middle.
and wiggle in and come in and want that attention. But you can even take the time with your kids there. Who cares if they say get a room? Who cares if they're like, ew, mom and dad, you guys are gross? Like, who cares?
It doesn't
Do it.
have to be hard.
Yeah.
I actually saw a meme the other day, and we're going to do our own little reel, but it was something like, we're raising our kids in a household where they say, like, "You get a room," or "Mom and dad stop kissing," instead of "Mom and dad stop fighting." And that hit me. I was like, yes, that is right. Like, our kids are growing up in that kind of household where we gross them out with our PDA. We are touching each other. We are spending time together. We are leaving them to have alone time. That's the type of household we're raising our kids in versus we never spend time with each other. We're fighting all the time. There's no connection. And then they're going to have their own dysfunction that they're going to run into because of seeing that. So I really think, again, prioritizing your marriage, it ultimately is prioritizing your kids. So if your kids are, call it, in the way of your marriage right now, maybe sit down with your spouse and have a chat and talk about it and say, like, how can we prioritize our marriage, and talk about how ultimately it will benefit your kids, especially if you're maybe the spouse that you want more connection and your husband or wife is the one that is pouring into the kids and they kind of use that as an excuse to not pour into the marriage. Like, I don't know, have them listen to this episode and just explain to them how beneficial it will be for them in the long run to pour into the marriage
We'll
and
help the
to
marriage now and help the kids later,
yeah,
honestly.
and to pour into yourself. He mentioned he touched on that earlier in the episode just for a second when he was talking about the moms, but this goes for dads too. Also pour into yourself.
Mhm.
Find a sense of self. Find a hobby. Like, be your own person. That is also so beneficial for your kids to see so that they will develop into their own person, especially in their relationship. They
Mhm.
won't just envelop into their kids or their spouse. That is so beneficial for them to see that you have your own life, your own individuality, your own personality, your own likes, interests, and things like that, as well as your marriage.
For sure. And at the same time too, another little tip, maybe this is off topic a tiny bit, but if you want your kid to be in football and be in the sports, but your kid wants to ride a skateboard or play the trumpet, like let your kid freaking do what they want to
Oh,
do.
that's a hard one
It is
too.
a hard one.
That's
It
a hard
really
one.
is because sometimes it's like,
Especially if
well,
they're
that's dumb.
well, especially if they're really good at something. I know I've had to let go of that as a parent sometimes. Like our daughter was really good at soccer, and one year she wanted to quit soccer and do cheer. And cheer to me is like girl drama and stuff. And she was really good at soccer. I'm like, no, like you need to do soccer. You're so good at it. Like, why would you throw this away? And I did let her change, and it's been a great change, but that is sometimes hard to let go, I think, as a parent. Mm,
Because we have interests and we're like, we want you to like what we like
yeah.
so that we can go do that thing with you.
Yes.
But if what they want to do is super nerdy, or if you're the nerd and they're super sporty, I mean, whatever it is, let them
Let them develop
flourish
their own
and
sense of self.
thrive, yes, and become the fullest expression of themselves
Yeah.
as a little kid so that they grow up and so that they're healthy in that way as
Yeah.
well.
That's a whole nother topic. But
Whole
yeah,
nother topic.
trying to raise your kid and let them be who they are versus what you think is best is so hard. But ultimately, that's what we should be doing as parents is letting them develop their own sense of self, their own interests, because they are their own person. They are their own human being. And we are just supposed to be like fostering it. So that's like a whole nother episode. Maybe we'll have to do.
Which is also
And
exactly how you need to treat your spouse.
yes.
Let them become who they need to be,
Yep.
how they can thrive, their full expression, and support that
Very true.
while you're both as well working on the marriage.
Yeah. But if you can ultimately pour into yourself and into your marriage, you will show up as a better parent because you're fulfilled in yourself, or you're fulfilled in your marriage, and that ultimately bleeds into everything, which is your kids and your family life. So it really actually is prioritizing your kids and your family, pouring into your marriage and yourself.
Yeah.
It, yeah,
And with everything, there's a balance, depending on your family dynamic, depending on your kids, depending on, how you and your spouse are and your needs. There's a balance that's different for everybody. So take what we're saying with a grain of salt and implement these
apply it to
things
your
into
situation.
your situation
Yeah.
the way that your needs are.
But if you can, do the date night. Take the
Absolutely.
trip, have the alone time, ignore your kids for a little bit to give attention to your spouse, invest, invest, invest into your marriage.
Yes.
Every penny, every minute is worth it in the end.
And it will pay dividends when your kids grow up and you see that they are now in a healthy marriage that they are thriving in because they were modeled a good marriage growing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's our opinion. We're sticking to it. Let us know if you agree or disagree.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Again,
guys.
we're so excited about all the new things we're doing. Check out our Deeply Intimate page, and we will be updating you with new things there, and it's going to be awesome. Thanks for being here.
Okay. Thanks, guys.